All right, let's talk about the future of crypto. Forget everything you think you know about the wild speculation and the craziness of the past. We're looking ahead to 2026, a year that a lot of people think is going to be a fundamental shift, a move from total chaos to some real clarity, pulling crypto from the fringes right into the heart of finance. So, how is this all going to play out? Let's dive in.
Hopium season. I love that phrase, because it just perfectly nails the vibe. You know, after a couple of pretty chaotic years, there's this feeling of optimism back in the air. But here's the thing. This time, it's not just blind hope. It's an optimism that's actually built on some real, tangible, foundational changes that are shaking up the entire industry.
And this, right here, this is the perfect way to picture the journey we're on. The crypto space is finally maturing, moving away from its Wild West days. You know, a place that was all about volatility and zero rules, and it's becoming a key part of the global financial system. By 2026, the story isn't about blowing things up from the outside anymore. It's all about becoming part of the system.
So, how did we even get here? Well, this 2026 revolution didn't just pop up out of nowhere. No, it was built on a series of huge events back in 2025 that basically laid a whole new foundation for the industry.
Okay, so 2025. What a year. It was a total game changer for getting crypto legit. You had the Genius Act, which finally brought some clear federal rules to stablecoins in the US. Then the government itself made a massive move by setting up a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And with all these new rules in place, we saw the big institutional players, the ones we've been waiting for, finally start moving from just dipping their toes in the water to actually diving in.
And we got to talk more about that strategic Bitcoin reserve because this is huge. This wasn't some minor policy change. By creating what's basically a digital Fort Knox, the US government started treating Bitcoin like a real strategic asset, almost like digital gold. That single move sent a massive signal to the rest of the world that nation-states were getting serious about this. So all of this laid the groundwork for something absolutely crucial: clear rules that everyone can follow. This next chapter is all about how global regulation started bringing the stability and trust the ecosystem desperately needed.
When you look at it, this new regulatory world really stands on three main legs. In the US, you've got the Genius Act, making sure stablecoins are actually backed one-to-one and are regularly audited. Over in Europe, the MiCA framework created one single, predictable set of rules for 27 different countries, a huge deal. And then globally, the travel rule helped bring crypto up to speed with traditional finance when it comes to fighting crime.
And you might be asking, okay, what's the end game with all these rules? Well, it's actually a pretty simple but powerful chain reaction. Having clear regulations builds way more trust. That trust, in turn, attracts the big, serious institutional money. And that money is what drives crypto's deep integration into the traditional banking system we all use. Which, of course, brings us to the next big step. For years, we've all heard that phrase, the institutions are coming. Well, guess what? In 2026, they're not just coming, they're here. The big money is finally moving off the sidelines and putting serious capital to work on-chain. It's a fair question, right? I mean, it's one thing to have all the rules in place, but is the real money, the big money, actually flowing in? Well, let's take a look at the numbers.
Okay, first up, get a load of this number. $50 billion. That's the predicted net inflow for US spot crypto ETFs alone, and that's more than double the year before. This isn't just a small bump. This is the floodgates opening up as these regulated products find their way into everyday investment portfolios.
And it's not just outside money coming in. The crypto world itself is growing up. You've got these major companies making billion-dollar deals like Kraken buying NinjaTrader so they can offer the kind of services that big institutions expect. This kind of consolidation, it's a classic sign that an industry is really starting to mature.
Now, this one is really fascinating because it shows how crypto is becoming the invisible plumbing of finance. A top-tier card network is expected to settle a full 10% of its cross-border payments using stablecoins. You, as the user, you won't see a thing. It'll be totally seamless. But behind the curtain, it's blockchain tech making everything faster and cheaper.
Okay, so we've got the rules, we've got the institutions, but what about the tech itself? Could it even handle all this new demand? Well, to go global, the crypto engine needed a massive, massive upgrade.
And the key innovation here is something called Bitcoin Layer 2s. The absolute best way to think about these is like express lanes on a highway. The main Bitcoin blockchain is like a super secure but sometimes congested single-lane road. Layer 2s are like building a multi-lane superhighway right on top of it.
So here's how it works in 3 easy steps. First, they move transactions off that main road and onto the super highway. Second, they process thousands of them almost instantly with practically zero fees. And third, this is the magic part, they bundle up all the final results and settle them back on the main Bitcoin chain so you still get that rock-solid security. It's truly the best of both worlds. You get the speed and the security.
So what does this actually mean in the real world? Well, it's staggering. Thanks to these upgrades, the amount of money moving around in stablecoins is predicted to actually overtake the ACH system. You know, that's the network that handles things like your direct deposit paycheck and your automatic bill payments. This shows that crypto isn't just a toy anymore. It's competing head-to-head with legacy finance at a massive scale.
Okay, so now that we've got this solid, grown-up foundation, we can start looking at the really wild stuff, the new frontiers. And this is where things get truly interesting, especially where crypto crashes into AI and big data.
I want you to really think about this for a second. We are walking into a world where AI can create images, videos, even voices that are completely indistinguishable from the real thing. So how do you navigate a world where you literally can't trust what you see and hear?
By the end of 2026, the prediction is that 90% of us will not be able to tell the difference. That is a massive, massive problem of trust. And it's a problem that blockchain technology, which is all about creating a permanent verifiable record of where things came from, is uniquely positioned to help solve.
But there's a flip side to this AI convergence. Think about it. All of these eponymous AI agents are going to need their own native currency to transact with each other. They're going to use crypto for these machine-to-machine payments. We're already seeing standards emerge to make this happen, creating a whole new layer of economic activity that happens entirely between AIs.
And finally, we have the rise of prediction markets. These crypto-powered platforms are becoming the go-to source for real-time insights, not just on elections, but on culture, sports, you name it. Instead of old-school polls, you can see where people are actually putting their money. They're becoming a new way to get a pulse on public opinion, with some platforms expected to handle billions a week.
So, as we wrap all this up, we're kind of left with this one big question. Is 2026 the year that crypto finally grows up, puts on a suit and tie, and gets a real job? Or is this just the beginning of a whole new, much more sophisticated game, one that's way more integrated into our lives than we can even imagine right now? I guess only time will tell.